I'm gonna let 5 booktubers recommend books to me, but I'm not gonna ask them. Here's why. I subscribe to a lot of booktube channels, and right now it's the beginning of the month, which means that almost everybody is posting a recap of the books that they read last month, and they'll be talking about books that they loved, the books that they did. So I'm gonna go through the list of videos that YouTube recommends to me, and every 5th video I will watch that video, stop it at the 5-minute mark, and see what book that booktuber is talking about, and I'm going to read that book. Hopefully, it's a book that the booktuber is raving about and not one of those "don't read this book" statements. Now, this could go either way because there are a lot of booktubers that I watch because of the booktuber's personality, even though we don't share the same reading taste and I don't enjoy any of the books that they read. There are people that I watch who only read fantasy, and I don't read science fiction, fantasy, young adult. So this could go very well, or this could go really sad. I'm starting with my own channel, my own February Reads video, and I expect that the videos that YouTube will recommend to me will be videos that are similar, have something similar about the title, except because I've been watching a lot of Sophia's videos, her video pops up as the number 5 video on that list, and she doesn't talk about books. So I can't use that one, so I'm gonna scroll down to video number 10. So this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So YouTube is suggesting that I will want to watch my own videos. So the next video, video 10 on my list, is another video from me. I can't recommend my own books, so I'm gonna scroll down. Video 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, this is good. Suddenly Lorna is talking about her favorite reads of 2017, and I subscribe to her. And she published this video on January 11th. So at the 5-minute mark, she is talking about what book? At the 5-minute mark, she is talking about Ian Mortimer's The Outcasts of Time. Oh my. This is not a book that I've ever even heard about, so
I would definitely recommend The Outcast of Time by Ian Mortimer. Like I said, it was one of my favourite books, despite it receiving not so much hype elsewhere, but I loved it.
So because Suddenly Lorna's video title is Favorite Reads of 2017, the recommended videos from YouTube has also changed, and so now I'm getting a lot of videos about favorite reads of 2017. So the 5th video on this list is going to be from A Journey Through Books, her favorite reads of 2017.
To the end of 2017.
So A Journey Through Books is new to me. She has 281 subscribers. She's probably pretty new here on BookTube. Her face doesn't look very familiar. I'm not subscribed to her channel, so I don't know what kind of books she's going to recommend. So let's see what she says on the 5-minute mark.
Honorable mentions is The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro.
A few weeks ago, I read The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro for my Man Booker 50 reading challenge. And I also have When We Were Orphans by him on my TBR. And I requested The Buried Giant from the library a few months ago and didn't read it. I returned it without actually opening the book. So it's interesting that it pops up on this list. I'm definitely gonna get it now and read it. So our second pick came from A Journey Through Books. So why don't we subscribe to A Journey Through Books as we're at it. So my next booktuber is going to be Beyond the Pages because she is number 5 on my list. At the 5-minute mark today, Ange is reading Wedlock. A Georgian, Britain's worst husband, met his match. My next video is going to be a weekly vlog from Jen Campbell.
Good morning guys, I thought I would start, let me move in a bit closer. That was it.
So this is a little different because Jen is doing a vlog, not necessarily talking about books. So let's see if she talks about books at the 5-minute mark.
And whilst that's paid work, I can't really let it take over my day.
So while I enjoy Jen's videos, she's not going to recommend a book to me right now because she's not talking about a book at the 5-minute mark. So let's go back down and maybe Jen will make a reappearance as the next 5th video. Let's see. It does look like that. So video 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is Happy Things New Book Deal. I already watched this video last week. Let me like it since I didn't do that before. And I think she talks about books in here. At the 5-minute mark, she's talking about her own book, which is not available in my library, which is where I'm sourcing the books from to read for this video. So I don't think I'm going to be able to read Jen's book right now. So let's go back and see if we can find another book that I can get from the library. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My next 5th video is a book haul from Jean Bookish Thoughts, and Jean is gonna be talking about a book at the 5-minute mark, and this looks like at 5 minutes she's talking about a book called Circe, C-I-R-C-E. Circe, Orange Prize winning, internationally best-selling author of The Song of Achilles, comes a powerful story of the mythological witch Circe, inspired by Homer's Odyssey. So we're going to take that as our next recommendation, and we're going to move on to the next 5th video. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so my next 5th video, Katie says she's not buying books anymore, but she has a book haul. Okay, she could have gotten them from the publishers. So let's see what Kate's book date is talking about at the 5-minute mark today.
Okay, so the synopsis is really vague, so I don't really know what it's about.
So I'm going to look for The Cellar by Natasha Preston from Kate's book dates recommendation. Now, Kate hasn't read this book. This is just a book haul. So I know I said I was only going to pick 5 books, but just in case I can't get all these books from the library, I'm also going to pick a 6th book as a backup. So what's next is going to be video 1, 2, 3. Oh, it would have been nice to get a pick from Wild Reads in there. Can we just pick Wild Reads just because maybe Mel will show up next time I do this video, or Steve Donahue. I'm surprised that Steve's videos didn't show him my recommended leads. Wild Reads, this is Dave. He is one of the British booktubers, and he talks about some really great books. So let's see what he's talking about today at the 5-minute mark.
I read in hardback last year. This is published by Canongate.
At the 5-minute mark, Dave is recommending Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo, which is funny because this is a book that I really wanted to read pretty soon. So I'm going to add this as my 6th pick, and if I have to replace any of the books, we're going to have this as a substitute. Now let's see if we can find these books on the New York Public Library system. By Wendy Moore is available at the research room, but is not available for checkout, so I won't be able to use that one. Sorry, Ange. So I guess Stay With Me just got bumped up to number 5. A few weeks have passed since I filmed the first part of this video, and now I've gotten some of the books from the library, so I can start telling you what I thought about them. The first book that I got was Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo. I actually got this one in March and read it, so I've already talked about it in my March wrap-up. But I'll tell you again that it's about a Nigerian couple who is dealing with infertility and childlessness, and the toll it takes on their relationship as they explore different methods to conceive a child, but ultimately also lose children. The novel also explores Nigerian family practices and family dynamics, including but not limited to polygamy and traditional spiritual practices and beliefs. I could see why Dave recommended this one. It is literary fiction. It also gives you a glimpse into a foreign culture, and I enjoyed the way the title related to lots of different things in the book. So I gave this one 4 stars. Then I read The Outcast of Time by Ian Mortimer. This one was recommended by Suddenly Lorna. The Outcast of Time is about 2 brothers living in the 1300s. They're both stonemasons, but they've gone to fight a war on behalf of the king. And on their way home, they're infected by the deadly Black Plague that has been wiping out entire communities in England. When they're infected by the disease, they have a supernatural experience, and they're told that they have a few days left to live. And they're given a choice whether they want to go home and spend their last few days with their family, but also knowing that they will infect their family and therefore cause their deaths as well, or whether they want to stay kind of wandering in the wilderness and spend a day per 100 years in each century. So really the choice is about, do you want to be selfish and spend your time with the family knowing that you'll also cause their death, or do you want to take the time to do good in this world and try to atone for your sins? But of course also giving up on the chance to ever see your family again or see anyone else that you know either, because in those subsequent centuries there will be nothing that is familiar to you. So this one was really just fantasy because it traced the evolving idea of heaven and hell and what it means to do good and to receive the reward of heaven. Mortimer included some really great quotes in this one as the characters share their introspection of life and time. There were lots of really graphic and violent scenes, but ultimately I like the way the author used this presentation to give a rolling description of the changing political and social history of England, and it was a really interesting story. I finished reading The Cellar by Natasha Preston. This one was recommended by Kate's Book Date, and this is a young adult mystery thriller suspense novel. It's about a young girl named Summer. She's 16 years old. She has a boyfriend and they make plans to go out for the night, but they decide to separate because she's independent. And when she goes out, she's abducted and put in a cellar with a few other young women. She's kidnapped by this man who's kind of a serial killer for prostitutes, but he also is trying to make himself the perfect family. So he's been kidnapping a bunch of women and keeping them in a cellar and renaming them as flowers. And I didn't like this. It's an independently published book. It was originally published on Wattpad, and it's supposed to be the first in a series of books by this author, but I won't be picking up anything else from her. This is not my type of book. A 16-year-old girl is kidnapped and you expect that there's going to be some maybe sexual abuse as you read about the abduction scenes. However, even the scenes where she flashes back and she's reminiscing about her experiences with her boyfriend, none of that seems appropriate for a young adult 14-year-old audience. Also, most of the other characters in this book are not young adult age. Other victims were kidnapped when they were 18 years old, but some years have passed since they've been abducted. So I didn't really feel like this was properly categorized, and I didn't like the story. A lot of it felt repulsive to me. I'm giving this somewhere between 1 and 2 stars. Not a new favorite of mine for sure. So on to the next one. I finished reading The Beary Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro, which is a fairy tale story with a very important meaning, but only one that you can enjoy if you have the stamina to unbury the giant or slay the dragon or whatever it is that one does when one goes on a quest like this. Beary Giant is set in a rural English countryside in an age-long past, and the main characters are Axel and Beatrice, who are an elderly couple who are growing more and more concerned as there's a mist lingering around their village that's taking away not just their memories, but those of their neighbors. While the story seems to be a fantasy story like the style of The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings, this is more the allegorical kind of novel that Ishiguro is known for. There was a lot of symbolic quality to appreciate in this book, but overall it was a slog to get through. I didn't so much like the cyclical conversations, and a lot of the subplots I didn't feel like they were resolved satisfactorily in the end. So overall I'm giving this 3 stars, even though it had the potential to be so much more. But thanks to A Journey Through Books for recommending this one, because I probably wouldn't have picked it up on my own, and I'm glad that I read it now. I just finished reading Stars by Madeline Miller, which is a retelling of a Greek mythology of Ceres, the daughter of Helios and Perse. Helios, I think, is the sun god. He draws his chariot across the sky and astronomers follow him, and Perse is just a nymph. Stars tells you really early that her name has 2 meanings, hawk and stone, except where she tells you that the thing that looks like a stone actually contains a seed, and she foreshadows what her later potential is going to be. I don't read a lot of Greek mythology, so this one is really interesting to get into, although in the beginning I had a real distaste for how the women measured their worth in terms of their ability to produce children, and ultimately their value was in whether they could produce gods or monsters or something in between. I could see the author later trying to reclaim that feminine power by allowing Ceres to become this witch whose power was in transforming others not into the manifestation that she would have, but into revealing the things that they've harbored secretly in their hearts. Like I said, I don't know the extent of Greek mythology, but I think the author did a really good job of incorporating almost every fantastical creature or character that you've ever heard about. Every god or goddess that you know appears in this book. But the author ultimately, I think, tried to use these quotes to tie the characters, to tie the story back to the philosophy of our time, offering these words of wisdom that were supposed to be a salve for every problem in our mortal world. I hated that Cersei's transformational potential was revealed only in response to jealousy, and ultimately a lot of the conflicts in this book arise out of envy, which I suppose is the oldest sin and makes it understandable. But that was not my only issue with this book. The writing was a little simplistic, and the plot unfolded in a pretty chronological way, moving from tryst to tryst and war to war, but it was almost exactly what I would expect from a fairy tale like retelling like this one. The book was interesting enough to read. I finished it in a day, but I'm not going to be running out to read anything else like this. This is definitely not my style of writing, but I'm giving it somewhere between 2 and 3 stars because it was okay. It's just not my kind of book. But thanks to Jean Bookish Thoughts for the recommendation anyway. And so that's it. Those are the 5 books that Booktubers picked for me to read without them even knowing that they were choosing my TBR. Ultimately, this is how they would stack up in order of favorites. My favorite was Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo, followed pretty closely by Outcast of Time by Ian Mortimer. The Buried Giant, I think, was my next favorite, followed by Circe. And of course, the worst pick for me was The Cellar, which I'm giving, I think, 2 stars. So that's my social/reading experiment of the week. Go ahead and leave me a comment down below if you enjoyed this video and you want to talk about any of the books that I mentioned here, or subscribe if you haven't already, because, you know, I'd like to continue sharing these videos with you. So we'll talk in the comments, and until next time, happy reading. Bye.